My name is John Ochola, a member of Access Education International, the Minister for Sustainable Development Goal number 2, which is zero hunger. My project is basically using locally available materials such as plastics, old clothes, tires, metallics, and anything that is within the locality to come up with hanging gardens in support of the same SDG. For example, here we have spinach. The reason as to why we are having spinach is simply because they are quite, or rather they are relatively cheap as compared to the rest. Here we have onions. They are doing well, as you can see. They are almost mature. We also have kales. Of course, something peculiar about our project is that we don't use manure. The soil is fertile by nature, so we don't require manure or any other thing to add on it. And you can see they're doing relatively well. Although it's incomplete, we are trying to come up with a greenhouse using plastics. Of course, our main idea is, number one, is to recycle the plastics so as to avoid environmental damage. Two, we also want to plant some crops inside. We want to plant onions, and we also want to plant tomatoes. But it's still incomplete. We are still working on it. Our project has invited many people. For example, the spinach, we had a well-wisher who decided to sponsor us with the same, and of course we thank him a lot. It's doing quite well, and we know in the next 1 month or so we'll be harvesting our spinach. We have 17 SDGs, but the reason as to why I chose SDG number 2 is simply because I've interacted with hunger. I've seen people go hungry. Also, I've seen people working very hard to bring something on the table. My project is basically using locally available materials such as plastics, old clothes, tires, metallics to come up with hanging gardens. Also, this is a learning institution. The learners will be able to see what is happening, and therefore they will inculcate the same back there at home. Of course, my main idea is that the same project is going to reach especially people within the slums. Those people who cannot even live by the $1 mark, so that hata kama una kazi, it's easier for you to, or rather it's very easier for you to get food. It is quite cheap. The only thing that you'll need to purchase maybe are the seedlings, and of course they go for only 100 shillings, which most of us can afford. Apart from that, let me just say that zero hunger is not an issue of charity, but justice. And this is something that our politicians and our leaders out there have ignored for a while. And a message to them is that that we need to work together in order for us to achieve this goal. It requires everyone, and it requires all our efforts. Apart from that, it is not that in Africa we don't have food. We have food. And maybe it is just because of pests, natural disasters that end up destroying some of the food. And annually, or rather on average, the food that gets destroyed in Africa is enough to feed over 50 million people, which is just the same as the population of Kenya. And therefore, if we make good use of the small spaces that we have, especially within the city where there is no space, we make good use of the vertical space that we have, then we are going to achieve zero hunger.
Yeah.